Good morning, Black Rock City, or good afternoon, depending on where you are, or good evening. Did that bring a smile to your face? It definitely brought some for me. As I was trying to find videos to start off today with, definitely wanted something that could make your heart warm, bring a smile to your face, and actually feel like the dream that we're going back to this year. So good morning, everyone. My name is Bryant Tan, more commonly known as Level. I am Burning Man Project's Associate Director of City Planning, or more commonly known as the Placement Manager. I will be your MC today. Welcome to the 2022 Black Rock City Camp Symposium. If you haven't already, I know some people have been doing this, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Say who you are, what your camp is, maybe where you're landing from. If you're not doing that, I'm actually going to share a poll with you right now to see. It looks like there's 191 people on the call so far. We'll probably have more rolling in throughout the day. But please fill out this poll. Tell us where you're from. Are you from California or Nevada? Are you from another part of the US? I put, almost every single continent out there and also outer space. So let us know where you're from. We're going to keep this up for maybe 10 more seconds, and then we'll close it up so that we can move on with the show. But I know folks are coming from all across the world. And so I really appreciate folks that are either waking up really early or staying up really late just to be here today and hear all of us talk and to be with one another. All right, let's, looks like all the poll is in. About 43% are from California and Nevada. Another 40% are from another part of the US. Lots of North America. We know this is timed in a way that works for people in North America, so that's not a huge surprise. But just know we are recording this, and we'll be sharing this out to everyone very soon so that you can tune in and get all this great information if you can't make it live. I believe we're also streaming this through Facebook. So hello to our Burning Man community out on Facebook that isn't in the Zoom. If you would like to join the Zoom call, I highly recommend going to Kindling, kindling.burningman.org. You'll be able to find the Camp Symposium information there, and you can then join the conversation in our chat and join these polls that we're taking. So, but thank you all for joining us today. Before we get started in today's program, I want to have us all take a deep breath and a collective sigh. We've all been through a lot since this pandemic has rocked our lives and this world. And I know without an official burn, we've all had to find and create alternatives to try to recreate that sense of magic and human connection that Burning Man brings. So, some of us has found new hobbies. Remember that time when everyone was like sharing sourdough starter? I don't know, raise your hand if that was something you did. We had to find new hobbies to keep us occupied. Some of us built our own mini burns and campouts and did things with friends and the community around us because that was all we could do. Some folks built camps virtually. Raise your hand if you did that, or join the virtual burn, try to do things in a different way and still feel that spirit through the computer and through video. And some actually made the trek out to the playa. I did last year, and many of us caught a really cool drone show. Raise your hand if you did that. Well, it looks like a lot of people here. Great. So that all is fantastic. But this year, and in 4 months, in fact, the clock is ticking. We are going back to Black Rock City. We get to reclaim that original hobby, create lots of spreadsheets, and rebuild the magical city in the desert that we all know how to do. So we all get to go home. Let's just soak that in for a minute. I also want to acknowledge that by the time we get out there again, it will be 3 years since we had the official event. And that's a long time, 3 years. Babies have been born, people have passed, and the world has emerged in a different place. Our collective awareness and human experience is in a different place. And I just kind of want to sit with that as we go throughout the day, because we're in a different place. As much as a lot of it's going to be familiar, a lot of it's going to be new as well. I think the stability of the world feels a lot more fragile. Climate change and its effects continue to impact us across the globe in different ways, and including the Black Rock Desert. People who've stood at the margins of society continue to fight for recognition and inclusion. So building that city in the desert that we love and having the world's best party and the best camping trip is no longer something we can just do without owning how do we show up in that bigger picture and how do we think about these things. So I hope today is a day that we can have lots of conversations about that. It's been conversations we've had over the past couple of years, and things will continue. So what else does this mean? I think first and foremost, it actually means that when we get out there, we really need to be even more kind to one another. We've all been healing through this trauma the last 3 years. I think we've all been doing our best to keep things together, and we've forgot some things. So if you read the placement newsletter, that's kind of one of the strongest notes I try to hit. Is like, let's be patient, let's be kind, let's help one another even more, because it's going to be an even bigger lift. And I think, let's come together as burners to figure out how we can show up to solving these bigger issues that I just mentioned, both in the desert and in the default world. How can we be a model for communities throughout the world tackling these very same issues? And how can we learn from them? We don't have all the answers ourselves. I've been going to Burning Man since 2009, and I know many people have been going much earlier than that. But one of the things that I loved most about it was the audacity that we all collectively have to figure out how to survive in the desert for a week, build a decommodified culture, be so giving to one another, and feel really abundant and safe and cared for. So if we have that audacity, I think Burning Man is an experiment that we can have to do around all these other topics too. As we figure out how to maximize every inch of the car to fit the boxes and things we need to fit, as we figure out how to rebuild the shade structures that can withstand 60-mile-per-hour gusts, as we figure out how to best evaporate gray water or how to trick out our bikes, let's also use our energy and time to think about how to show up for these dual challenges of environmental sustainability and inclusion and diversity in Black Rock City. So that's my call to action. There's a lot to learn and talk about today, and I hope that you all can show up and with curiosity and openness, and share what you know too. So let's get this show started. Enough of me talking. There's going to be we have a really great slate of people lined up to help you think about how to get back to Black Rock City. The theme of today's symposium is a road to Black Rock City. So we have lots of great speakers. I'll queue them up for you. But before we do that, I'm just want to get a temperature for the room again. Our second poll, the question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to go back to Black Rock City? 1 to 10. 1 means meh. 10 means great. I think some people might have misunderstood that, so feel free to correct your questions or your responses. And it looks like lots of people are participating. So there's 237 people in. We have over 160 that have filled it out. Turn it to 11, a million, 10 million. Wow, lots of numbers in the chat. All right, let's close up the poll. And to no one's surprise, it looks like 90% of us are a 9 or a 10. And oh, there's a 1 and a 4 and a 5 out there, which is totally fine too. Let's hope that that number changes as we go on today, because everything we're going to talk about hopefully builds a little bit more excitement about returning. All right. I am now going to pass it over to our fantastic CEO, Marian Goodell, and our event operations director, Charlie Dolman, to say hello and give you a little bit of a preview of how we're thinking about Burning Man this year. We've weathered a lot of storms, and these two have been, kind of at the helm of the ship, helping us go through it. So, Marian, take it away.
Thanks, Lowell. Hi, Charlie. Hello, theme campers all around the world. Thank you very much for being here. I really actually enjoy this moment to say hello to the theme camps. I got so excited. I've got my little colorful bindies on here to show up and get ready and feel the vibe and feel the energy. And, I'm happy to be speaking at this moment with you all. A couple things that come up, Level, the work you've been doing to hold this community together and the interesting changes that you've navigated for the last couple of years. I'm looking forward to seeing how all the theme camps and how you guys all lean in to these different ideas. I think we're going to see a lot of things that are going to look different. Our world doesn't look the same, and I don't think Black Rock City is going to look the same. And as Level said, I think it's going to take a deep breath. I think it's going to take patience. And I think we have to, work through the fear. I think there's a lot of fear. There's a fear about change. There's a fear about people. There's a fear about hugging one another, when that's exactly what we always like to do in Burning Man and in Black Rock City. And this is going to be a year to really trust and lean into love. And, with so many different things happening around the world that make us feel disconnected and stressed, and we question love and connection, the place we shouldn't question it is in Burning Man, in Black Rock City, and the place that we should really lean into seeking and learn about other people, no matter where they're from or what their politics are, what their religions are. That place is Black Rock City, and that's Burning Man. And you all are the micro communities and the communities that are the backbone for Burning Man in Black Rock City. I recently was in Washington, D.C., visiting some elected officials, visiting the head of the BLM, the new head of the BLM. And it's really interesting when I'm in a position to explain to people really quickly what is Burning Man, and to try to do it in a way that makes it sound not like any other festival. And I usually tell people that we are Leave No Trace, we have no trash cans, and we don't sell anything but ice. And there's this concept called theme camps. And it's usually talking about theme camps and talking about the communities and the work that you all do and the way that you engage with the community in the world. And frankly, also outside of Black Rock City. That's usually what gets people to lean in, because what we're doing and what you're doing to create this city, this civic experiment, and bringing the concept of theme camps in it doesn't exist anywhere else, unless it's a Burning Man related event. So you guys have, we're all in this together. Some of you are certainly bringing back teams and friends and communities for the first time. Maybe some of you gathered in the last 2 years. And I know some of you are creating new camps. Frankly, heard from quite a few folks that saw this as an opportunity to change it up or leave a camp or start over again and come back after a number of years. And I just want to applaud all of you that are here to learn from one another, to hear the storylines, to get inspired by one another. That's what this is about. This moment with the symposium is less about the Burning Man project, telling everybody what to do. It's really us facilitating the storylines so that you all can hear from one another and get ready so that we can all go back to Black Rock City and enjoy the magic together. I'm really looking forward to Black Rock City, probably more than in a long time. And that is primarily because I think change is an opportunity for renewal. I think that there are many things about Black Rock City that were maybe becoming stagnant or tough or not enjoyable. And this is an opportunity for all of us to reset the buttons. I was just talking to somebody last night, actually, who reminded me that this is also an opportunity for us to remember that it's a great place to leave our phones and our technology behind. And was reminiscing about 10 years ago, before we had Instagram and everybody posted during Black Rock City. And I keep thinking that I think that we're all really looking forward to the purity of being in Black Rock City. I think that we're all likely to be bringing camps together that are more committed, bringing campmates in that are more committed. And, like Level said, we're really looking forward to the way in which we can all lean into the conversation around diversity. Diversity of race, diversity of religion, diversity of politics, diversity of where we're coming from. And we can also really prototype ideas around sustainability. There are so many ideas out in the world, businesses and innovations that actually came from people experimenting at Burning Man. So this is going to be a fabulous year, and we're setting the platform for, honestly, years to come. And we'll make mistakes, we'll all make mistakes, but that's the journey. And I am really happy to be here in the presence of all of you that I learn from so often, as we all do from each other. And, one of the powerhouses here doing a lot of lifting is Charlie Dolman, who joined us, I believe, in 2012, Charlie. So if we'd had consecutive years, it would be 10 years. And I know, Level, you probably want to introduce him, but this is one person that I speak to every week, sometimes multiple times a week. And Charlie, you're doing a heroic work, and I know everybody appreciates your leadership. You're the man on the ground, helping move all the chess pieces together. And I know, like me, it's really fun to be here with the theme camp folks as they start mapping Black Rock City in their minds and in their spirits. So thank you, Level, for giving me this opportunity to say hello to everybody. I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys on the playa, hopping on art cars and coming by and engaging in your camps. That's the magic that I really love at Burning Man, is coming to see what's happening and to sit down on a couch and have a little mezcal and get to know what you guys are all doing in the world. So thank you again for everything that you all bring here. It's really magical, and I'm grateful. Back to you, Level and Charlie.
Thanks, Marian. Sitting on the couch with a little bit of mezcal. That sounds great, doesn't it? It's been a while. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Dolman, otherwise known as Louder. I'm the Event Operations Director. And I had a lot to riff off from what Marian and Level have said. You know, I think we are recognizing the world has undergone a whole lot of effort, a whole lot of change. And what we're seeing is that a whole lot of people are putting a whole lot of effort in. You know, as you guys have filled in your place camp questionnaires this year, you've seen some questions around sustainability, and you've seen some questions around rides. And it's been so great to see how many of you are really taking these initiatives to heart and have been doing things all along and are finding new ways to support them and just really stepping up and helping us as a community and as an organization do our part to be part of the solution. You know, we've set some pretty lofty goals. If you haven't read the sustainability roadmap and some of the work around rides, it's significant goals in front of us, and these are things that are going to be not easy to work all the way through, and we all need to play a part of it. So thanks all of you for doing that. You're going to hear more about these things later today. I also just want to double down on something that Level said. You know, Level, you mentioned being kind to each other and being thoughtful. And one of the conversations that we have had as an organization and continue to have is, you know, since the event sold out, there's been a kind of a pressure to deliver because of an understanding of dependence of getting tickets on that ability to deliver. And it's kind of created this arms race, and we really don't want this arms race. Coming to Burning Man should be something that's enjoyable rather than something that you know, breaks you financially, spiritually, and intellectually, especially this year. So just know that this is one of the things that we're looking at really hard to try and figure out a way to release the pressure and to kind of take away this need and this feeling that we got to continually do better. And specifically for this year, go easy on yourselves. It's been a hell of a couple of years. Coming out of the pandemic has been just as hard as being in it, weirdly. And give yourselves a break, give yourself some time, make sure that you have that space to go and visit your buddies that you haven't seen for, you know, it'll be 3 years, Level, like you said. So please do just kind of take that time and, you know, think about that with all of your people. I also just want to say a couple of thank yous. I'm grateful to all of you who are stepping up to volunteer for teams. You'll be pleased to hear that we're seeing a bumper kind of engagement with volunteerism, and that's just super fantastic. It's great that people really are still grokking and remembering that there's multiple ways to give to the community. And then also, I just want to say that I'm grateful to all of you that supported the organization. Our job of keeping Black Rock City alive is pretty challenging in ways that are either very interesting or very boring to you, both of which is fine. But it takes work and it takes knowledge, and the generosity of you all and the community has helped us keep the band together so that we can actually get back to Black Rock City. It is hard enough this year already. And so I'm just incredibly grateful. And then lastly, before I hand it back to Level, just super quick, should I say something about COVID? Do we know about COVID? There's COVID, there's the pandemic in the room. Firstly, don't let Black Rock City be the time that you first encounter going out into the world. And we had a staff gathering a couple of weeks ago for our leadership, and it was really great to see people again. And some people were super enthusiastic, and some found it a little bit harder than others. Don't let Black Rock City be the first time that you encounter large chunks of human beings. If you can at all, figure out ways to go through it. And then I think next, it's important to recognize that how we are dealing with the pandemic and how we're kind of all interfacing with it is changing. It's you know, we're now kind of moving into a phase of kind of, what do I feel comfortable doing? What is acceptable for me? How can I adjust my behavior? And then, you know, how do I take some responsibility onto myself? So as you get together with your campmates, as you kind of do all the prep and go into the containers and dust stuff off and get into the storage yard, just be thoughtful about that for yourself. And then also think about the fact that everybody's had a different moment in the last couple of years and a different experience, and be sensitive to that. You know, it's going to be easy for some and super challenging for others. And then the health check. If you recall, at Christmas time, we said we were going to do a health check. What we do know is that just to be, that was at the time we said that would be a either proof of vaccination or demonstration of a negative test. The world is changing radically, and we may or may not do that. We are still in the process of trying to figure that out right now. We're working hard with governments, with looking at other events, looking at how people are adjusting how they go about their lives. And so we're trying to gather all of this together, and we know we need to make a decision quickly, and we hope to have something around that by the end of May, the beginning of June. So we will keep you all in the loop as soon as we know on that. So again, thank you all for coming today. Super, super excited to see what you bring to the playa this year, and go easy on yourselves and have fun. Thank you. Level, back to you.
Thanks, Charlie. Yes, go easy on yourselves, have fun. Thank you, Marian and Charlie. I think that, just to double down on everything they've said, this is quite a challenging time, and we're just so excited to get us all back together. And I'm just going to start shifting gears now, because we're going to get on with the rest of the program. What we have for you lined up today is, a lot of sort of nuts and bolts about getting to Black Rock City again. And part of that is also looking at how things work. And I know many of you, probably all of you, have filled out a Place Camp questionnaire. It is a beast. It is long. It has a lot of information. And I want to let you all know that we actually use that in thinking about not just where to place you, but how are we as a community showing up for each other, and how are we actually kind of moving the needle on different goals. We recently brought on a new data guru onto the placement team. Her name is Trixie, and actually looked through piles of data about your interactivity descriptions, about kind of your sustainability efforts. And she's here today to actually share that information back with you all. I do want to preface this that we don't usually share this information. We kind of sit on it and it's a lot of important data. And we do want to share it because we're like, hey, this is a great reflection to show back to the community. How many coffee camps are there exactly? How many camps are bars? We have our anecdotal experiences, and we kind of wanted to show you what is actually out there. So let's pull Trixie up. She's gonna share the information that she has helped digest, and then we're gonna pull a panel together of some placers to do a quick Q&A so that you can think about your interactivity and how you're showing up this year. So Trixie, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Level. Hi, everybody. I am Trixie, your resident placement data little geek, as well as a theme camp lead as well. So as Level said, I'm here to share some data insights as well as trends that came from the 2019 and the 2022 Place Camp questionnaires. In 2019, we had 1,194 camps submit questionnaires. And this year we had 1,200. But with a little asterisk of, we pulled this report on Monday. So if you were one of those stragglers who submitted their Place Camp questionnaire in like the last minute, shame on you, and you're not in this presentation. So before I move on, what I would love for you to do is go into your chat and then put in what you think is the most common types of interactivities or events that we're going to see on Playa. And you'll see if you are correct later on in the presentation. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is when interactivity happens on Playa. Bar. Y'all are pretty smart. So 8 out of 10 camps have interactivity during the afternoon, and we classify the afternoon as noon to 6 p.m., while 1/2 of the camps have interactivity during the evening, so 6 p.m. to midnight. And then we have the graveyard shift with only 10% of camps offering interactivity between midnight and 6 a.m. So if you want to do something, special, maybe do, a 4 a.m. interactivity event. All right, so drum roll, please. The #1 type of interactivity on Black Rock City is, you guessed it, a bar. So this year, that 56% of all camps, 670 of them, are going to be offering bars on Playa. This is down from 60% in 2019. And for those of you who told us what kind of drinks you are going to be serving in your bars, cocktails is the #1, followed by beer and wine. And for those 23 camps who are serving tiki drinks or tropical drinks, save a seat at the bar for me because I will find you all over the course of the week. The next most popular event on Playa is workshops and classes. And we made it easier for placement to keep track of the number of workshops this year. So unfortunately, I don't have any apples to apples comparisons from 2019, but suffice to say that 1/2 of all of the camps are offering some type of workshop or class. And common types of workshops and classes are arts and crafts, talks and lectures, spirituality and self-improvement workshops, as well as activity-based classes such as yoga, hooping, or dance. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Then the next is my favorite because I love to eat my way through Playa. It's food. And I am very sad to report that there are fewer camps who are offering food this year. Only 3 out of 10 camps, there's 360. So we have a hypothesis that maybe this is the impact of COVID and wanting to not get involved in all the food safety and health regulations with COVID added onto it. I do want to report that there has been a change in the leaderboard this year for the most popular type of food offered. The pancake contingent of pancakes, blintzes, and crepes has now moved into pole position above soup, ramen, and miso, which was #1 in 2019. The next most popular type of interactivity is, of course, parties. And so we've calculated parties by combining those camps who said they had a dance party, those camps that said that they had music, and then those camps who said they had a DJ. And so that is almost 30% of you are going to be partying down on Playa. I also want to point out this is awesome. Our other Level was not as excited as I am about this statistic that there are 52 camps that are offering karaoke and sing along. There are also 42 camps that are offering live music this year, and the most popular type of dance is actually ecstatic dance, with 15 camps offering ecstatic dance this year on Playa. So the next thing that I wanted to do is drill down a little bit more into the types of workshops and classes and see which were the ones that were either really popular or were surprising to me, having leapt from 2019 to 2022. And those are yoga and meditation. So looking at yoga, we went from 13% of all the camps in 2019 offering yoga to 17% in 2022. And then this was the big shocker for me. We went from 7% of the camps in 2019 to 12% of the camps offering meditation or mindfulness. And again, I really think that we're seeing the impact of the pandemic here. So we all, after the tumult of the last couple of years, we need to ground, we need to center ourselves and really consider self-care. So I think this is what we're seeing here. And then the last statistic that I wanted to share with you is our favorite non-boozy beverages. And again, there has been a change in the leaderboard here, where coffee has now overtaken tea as the most popular non-boozy beverage. There's going to be 164 camps offering coffee this year on Playa. That is a lot of coffee grounds, and I hope that they find their way into some compost bin at some point and they are not put in the trash. So right now, you might be a coffee, pancake, and yoga camp, literally sweating buckets in your seat, thinking that you have to go back to your camp and change everything. No, you do not. What we are doing is we're really giving you this information to start a conversation with your camp and not to force change. And to really help theme camp organizers lead that conversation, we're giving you a vow-based framework to talk with your camp about whether the interactivity that you're doing, if it's very common, is really aligned to your camp. So A, is it an activity that you really love doing? E, is it an engaging experience for both your campers as well as participants, or are you just really going through the motions at this point? I, how can you put an imaginative or creative spin on the activity? One of my favorite Bukowski poems is "Style is the answer to everything." It is a, it is a fresh way to approach a dull or dangerous thing. So how can you do coffee with style? Oh, can you open during non-peak times? So a sunrise bar, or perhaps pancakes or breakfast for dinner. And then finally, how can you add those unique details and specifics that come only from your camp? The one thing that we do not want to see is a repeat of the great hot dog debacle of 2016 that Papa Bear told us about when we were sharing this data earlier with placement, where a whole bunch of grilled cheese camps independently realized or thought that there were too many grilled cheese camps on Playa. And so without even realizing that everyone else was doing it too, they all changed to hot dogs. And it was a tragedy when we went to Playa that year and there was a scarcity of grilled cheese and an overabundance of hot dogs. So please don't think that you have to take this data and immediately change. So the last thing that we're going to look at is some data from the early decision form and looking at it from both sustainability and ride. So in this survey from January, we asked you to give some commitments that your camp was willing to make on these two strategic initiatives at Burning Man. And so from the sustainability perspective, camps are really interested in solar, head and shoulders above everything. But also they were interested in increasing ride sharing and carpooling, as well as dealing with trash in a better way, including recycling and composting, reducing or banning single-use disposables and plastic, and then also gray water solutions. So there are 2 breakouts about both solar and gray water later on if you're interested in those. From the ride comments, however, what we found was that there were fewer specific tactics, and instead most camps were pointing out their existing diversity in camp membership or their general agreement with radical inclusion as one of the 10 principles of Burning Man. And it wasn't until the 4th most common comment that we got to an actual tactic or strategy, which was general outreach or recruiting from different types of less represented campers. And so my analysis of this is that we as a community are still trying to find our way of what ride means to theme camps and how we can move forward. So if you're interested in this, there's another breakout about ride later on this afternoon. And with that, I'm going to turn things over back to Level, and we're going to have a little panel with a couple of our placers.
Thank you so much, Trixie. A thing that we do around here at Burning Man staff is give snaps when we agree with things or really like something that people are saying. So I have just lots of snaps for Trixie, and I hope you do too. We're going to pull up a few placers because I was tracing the chat. A lot of people love this data because it's just a snapshot of who we all are together. And I'm sure there's ideas spinning. So I wanted to pull up a few placers. Let's pull up Hep Kitten and Monday and What's It, and we'll keep Trixie on the panel as well. And what we want to do is actually spend the next 15 minutes to let you ask us questions and ask us how we're thinking about interactivity. So we have a couple chat moderators. If you have a question, please stick it in the chat, and then Sandra or Muppet, please cue that up for us. But before we get to the question, can I have my team please introduce yourself? So Hep Kitten, why don't you go first, and then Monday, then What's It?
Hi, Hep Kitten. I have been placing for a lot of years, since the 2nd year on Playa, which was I think 2006 at this point. I've placed a good portion of the city over the years, 3 o'clock, 4:30, 6, and 7:30. And I'm really looking forward to helping you guys find your right place this year.
I'm Monday. I placed in 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. I am in 9 o'clock this year, so shout out to all you 9 o'clock camps. And I, like you, used to be a theme camp lead and a village mayor, so I sort of understand the rush and the thrill of the placement process from your perspective. So looking forward to helping y'all get to Black Rock City this year.
Hey, and I'm What's It, lead placer for 3 o'clock with a fabulous team this year. Wanted to say we're just so excited. The entire team, all 4 of us, are so excited to see all of you in the dust, creating your camps, bringing your creativity, bringing the weird. Yeah, so let's get this party started.
All right, let me just kick off a question for our team. So with the data that we just saw, I know we get, looking at Facebook boards and things like that, we often see that people are like, there's too many bars out there. What's your opinion about, are there too many bars? And yeah, are there too many bars? Who wants to take that question? Hepkin.
Well, I'll say no because I love bars. I love doing pub crawls on Playa, and I love seeing how people can make bars interesting and exciting and something more about connection than about just getting a drink. So those are some of my favorite camps because, yeah, especially if you've got whiskey or scotch.
Yeah, plus there's 100 different kinds of bars. You got your country western bars. You got a bar you got to write a bull before you're allowed to have a drink. You have, your punk bars. We have a heavy metal bar. All sorts of bars, and all of them practically have some sort of interactivity you have to do with the camp to get your.
She froze.
I froze. I'm in the middle of nowhere with bad internet. Welcome to my world. It's like the playa 24/7.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of bars. That I think point well taken. And what would you say to a new camp that's like, we don't really know what to do? We're not particularly creative, but we want to give. We have lots of energy and time to do something. Like, how would you start thinking about interactivity? How would you recommend that? Let's take Monday.
Yeah, I would start by thinking, like, what are the experiences you've had in Black Rock City that you've really enjoyed or have been really meaningful or fun or unique? That's one of the things I love about what you all bring to the city is there's so many things I experience there that I can't or don't get to experience in the real world. So I would start with, looking at your past experiences in Black Rock City and seeing if there's a unique spin that you can bring to something that you've done there before.
All right. What's it, Hepkin?
I would say if you're feeling really awkward and really insecure, embrace that. Do a workshop on awkwardness. Hey, come sit with me for 30 minutes. We're all going to be awkward together. There's going to be awkward hugs. There's going to be awkward smiles. Let's do awkward eyebrow, wiggles. Embrace that. Even though it sounds mundane, there are probably a good 3,000 people on the playa who are feeling just as awkward and just as insecure. And they would love to come and spend some time with you and maybe make a new awkward buddy.
And I would also say that think about the things that you're passionate about outside of Burning Man. Are you somebody who's super into birds? Talk about birds. I know like one camp that does that on Playa. Are you into like astronomy or whatever? Like what's the like weird geeky thing that you're into? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a weird geeky thing, but it's just something you're really passionate about. Do something with that and offer a workshop. There's going to be so many people who are into the same thing that will come to those workshops. And if it's something that you're really passionate about, it'll be popular.
Great. And last question before I see if there's one from the audience. I'm sure people ask us all the time, like, how do you lay out the city? Like, what are you looking for? How are you thinking about it? Do you just plop them all randomly, or like, what's the thought behind it? So
dartboard. Oh.
Dartboard? Yeah, sometimes it's a dartboard.
Dice. Dice.
Monday, why don't you take that first?
Well, I would say that I also want to stress that every sector does it a little bit differently. And I think that's what gives each sector its personality and flavor. At 9 o'clock, we really like to put camps that like kind of everybody knows about, sort of the Burning Man famous camps at the ends of avenues to draw people into the city. Because our focus is always how can we make Black Rock City, the space where you live, an interesting, unique, wonderful place to hang out. You can always go to the playa to see the art, but I'm more concerned about like, what is the experience you're having when you're walking down a street? What are camps that complement each other? Is there a block that has both day and night stuff? Maybe something late night and morning? Is there coffee and food nearby? Is there bike repair? Trying to think of it as more of like a cohesive neighborhood point of view. So I know that's not very helpful for you. You just need to bring whatever it is that you're bringing. And then sort of we try to make it a place that you'll like enjoy hanging out in.
Great. I think we have just a couple questions. Let's try to take them quickly from the audience. So Sander, if you want to just unmute yourself, he's been collecting the questions. Let's take those two.
Sure. I'm going to combine two questions here. Could you talk a little bit about neighbors and information about neighbors this year? And what are your thoughts on ways people can share resources?
Well, one thing that we are going to debut as a very new feature of your placement announcement email is who your neighbors are. So if you have, as a camp, consented to share your information, we are going to include that in the You've Been Placed email. So it'll just be about your approximate, it won't just be about your approximate dimensions and address. It'll also include, the 3 to 6 neighbors that you can have conversations with and talk about sharing resources. I also want to point out that there was the hubs process that I think we had over 96 camps fill out that form. And we have been reviewing those and trying to honor those in our process. And so we think those are going to be great stories to tell. And if you did fill one out, do plan on seeing that. We'll contact you to get more information, because we have some ideas, but really the ideas come from all of you and from the community. And it's all about us surfacing those for other people to learn from. And as always, I think, whether you have contact with people or not before you get to the playa, always when you get there, go introduce yourself to the person next door, the person across the street, the person behind you. That's always important, just to build a relationship. And, I think part of the magic of placement is, as much thought as we put into it, there's even more magic that you can create yourselves. People that never thought they would be next to each other end up becoming best of friends and want to be together, every year after. Those are the types of things that can only happen if you reach out and step across the street and even talk to the people that you may not, normally talk to if you were out in the default world. This is Burning Man. And so if you don't like cowboy hats and someone across the street is all wearing cowboy hats, like, go try to talk to them. I think that's part of the Burning Man spirit and part of how to be more radically inclusive. Did you have one more, or was that just the combo?
I do. And again, I'm going to combo a few more questions here. Can you talk a little bit about tickets? There was, some thoughts on the main sale potentially being a bit smaller, tickets for new camps this year. Just give us a brief update.
Sure. I think that's something I can take. The population is going to be the same in Black Rock City this year. I think one thing I've helped to describe to people is it's about the way the pie is cut. The pie is not getting bigger, but the pie staying the same. So I think in the bigger picture, it's going to shake out for camps to be able to access tickets. We are making new pots of tickets available. And so part of why there weren't as many in the main sale as people were accustomed to is because we're going to be promoting new camps. That's for the very first time we have tickets set aside so that new camps can form. We heard for many years that new camps were like, how do I even start? Like, I get 3 tickets in the main sale and I might volunteer, and then I'm supposed to make a theme camp that works, 5 days out of the week. So it was a challenge, and I think that we're trying to adapt to that and create some space for new camps. In addition to that, there are other initiatives that we're trying to do. We're trying to understand how camps are showing up around sustainability and radical inclusion and diversity. And so in the next month or 2, you will be hearing more about how more tickets are released. And in addition to that, there are other options that I want people not to forget. There's STEP, the Secure Ticket Exchange Program, and there's the OMG sale at the end of the year, at the end of July or beginning of August, where you can access tickets too. We're trying to learn in this process, so I appreciate everyone's patience, and we do hear that it's hard to plan if you don't have the numbers of tickets and access available. So we're going to try to release that very, very soon. So just be patient. We're aware of it and we're working on it. Okay, with that, I think I'm just going to wrap up this panel. Thank you all for joining us for this. Thank you, Trixie, again, for that amazing data. That presentation is going to be shared with everyone who has signed up for tickets. We have your emails. We'll email out links to all of that very soon. All right, we've done a lot of talking for close to an hour. And so I want to, we've built in a couple more things in a bit. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up to my agenda. The next thing we have is not just about placement. Has another arm of what we do, which is called camp support. And there has been an amazing team that has been here for the last couple of years to try to hold the community together, producing campfire talks on a monthly basis, and overall having lots of supports that they're trying to offer to the community. So these are theme camp leaders helping other theme camp leaders. And I'll pass it to Sander, who can tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Level. So camp support, we're here for you. Who are we? As Level mentioned, we are an ancillary group to placement. We're volunteer-led veteran camp organizers who are putting on programs year-round to try and support camps. The flagship effort for us is the Camp Symposium, which you're at here today. This is actually the 11th anniversary or the 11th showing of the Camp Symposium, and over 75 volunteers and staff have come together to help put this on. If you'll join me in a little applause for all those volunteers. Thank you so much, guys. Looking farther out year round, Campfire Talks, we have those on a monthly basis. Those are on Kindling like this. They are symposium-like content, somewhat like breakouts that we have this afternoon. Some of the topics we've had: consent, fire in your camp, burning year round, ask a placer. And the next one of those is coming up on June 14th. We also offer stories from the city. These are long-form thought pieces that typically appear in the Burning Man Journal. They are a deep dive on a camp, maybe their experience, a best practice they can share, something that they have that can inspire us. The most recent piece was Deadheads and Burners, which I loved, which was in the Burning Man Journal in January. We also put out the Camp Resource Guide. This is a self-serve guide of a collection of how-to articles and videos on a variety of topics, where you can go in and see if you can find something that can help you. It has a very long URL, but if you start with burningman.org and go to event and then participate, you can find your way to it. We also, for those that need a little bit more in-depth, hands-on type help, we have the Camp Advisory and Mentorship Program, CAMP. These are experienced, trained TCOs who are available for one-on-one consultations for up to a year. If you'd like a mentor, you'd like to be a mentor, email the help desk. And the help desk, you say, this is our front door. This is our main point of contact with all of you. You can reach us at campsupport@burningman.org. Don't be bashful. Anything that you want to ask us, we're going to try and answer for you or get you connected with someone who can help you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Burner Network as well. This is sort of a side project to what Camp Support does that some of the Camp Support volunteers support. This is a separate 501c3 nonprofit that we debuted last year at this event. You can find more info about it at burnernetwork.org. There are two programs, the Camp Honoraria Program and the Burner Mapping Project. I'll talk more about the honorarium in just a second, but the Burner Mapping Project takes all of the placement data that you provide and make public, puts it in Google Map API so that you can see what camps are near you and what projects and efforts are near you. So that's at burnernetwork.org if you want to check that out. And then our one-year report on the Camp Honoraria Program. This was intended to be the theme camp or the camp answer to the Art Honoraria Program. We provide $1,000 to $5,000 grants to Burning Man camps. It's an all-volunteer grant committee of 5 people. We've received 30 applications from camps. We've given out 7 grants to 7 camps thus far. We're adding about 3 more a quarter. We wanted to raise $50K. We've raised $33,000 for camps. All of that's going back to camps. We want to raise another 17 by Burning Man. If you want to donate money, if you want to help us review grant applications, if you want to apply for a grant for your camp, please go to burnernetwork.org. The donations are tax deductible. And then finally, Level asked me to just mention the camps that we've given grants to. These are the 7 camps. I love every single one of them. Gender Blender, which does workshops on gender issues. Camp of Misfit Toys, which does holiday ornament decorations out in open camping. Camp Luminos, these are gourd lanterns that you can go by and make. Northwest Mist does water misting on the Esplanade. Dye with Dignity, you can go by and tie-dye fabric, and it looks like they have some scarves here. Land of Monkey does TED Talk seminars. And then we also do mutant vehicle camps. Disco Ball, this is their vehicle. And we'd love, if you have a camp like this, if you need money, come let us help you. So that's Camp Support. This is what I hope at some point will be the Camp Support logo if somebody lets me do it. but this is going to come back to you, Level. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support, and camp support at burningman.org if we can help you at all.
Thank you, Sander. Snap, snap, snaps. Yeah, the camp support team has really grown. And I think, again, you know, it is a volunteer effort. And I want folks to know that, like, there's only as much you see there as people can give. And so all the love and energy and even money now is really a community-wide effort. And so thank you, Sander, for helping to explain that to everyone. So we're gonna do a little bit of a break now, just because it's always nice to pause and reflect and also move your bodies a little bit. So let's bring PETA onto camera to help guide us through a stretch break.
Hello, are you guys ready for some stretching? It's important. I've got 2 minutes. Let me start my timer. I've got 2 minutes with you. So here we go. You're gonna channel your inner Jane Fonda first. You're gonna stand up. You're doing some cross crawls right here. We're gonna get some circulation moving. That's right. And then you're gonna tap the inside of the ankle. You gotta get your brain thinking, okay, we're gonna go back. Just moving it around a little bit. There you go. One more like that. And then let everything come down. Bring the arms forward. Clasp the hands out. Drop the chin. Roll those shoulders forward. Your knees are soft. You're stretching that top of the back. Maybe you've been sitting at that computer. Maybe you've been driving. And then you lift those arms up. You bring them down to your sides. Bring them back behind you. Clasp them if you can. If not, you just have them behind you. And you lift those arms, opening up the front body. Let's do it again. Forward, roll those shoulders forward. Keep that pelvis kind of just where it is, lifting those arms up, down and around. Inhale those arms up, back, open that chest. Let's do one more just because it feels so good. Over. With that exhale, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling back, bringing the arms back. Now we have our palms out, the back of our hands are together. Bring the fingertips towards the floor and you're offering. And you're bringing the arms back. This is really good for the wrists if you've been doing some computer stuff or maybe doing like push-ups. And one more. And then we let that come down. Widen the stance. You're going to bring the arm over to the side. And here I call radical self-extension right here. Integrating those principles into our stretch. Over to the other side. That one more to each side. We can do one more to each side. Stretching, stretching. And that's it for me. Back to Level.
Ooh, that's some good blood flowing. Thank you, PETA. We're gonna have a couple more stretch breaks throughout the next hour. So yeah, thank you, PETA, for bringing your stretching magic to us. We're gonna queue up another video and then bring to you a little parade of a lot of different small presentations from different departments and groups of people to give you a little bit more excitement about getting back to the playa. So let's get that video going, and then yeah, we'll get the rest of the show on the road.
All right, hold on.
Come and kiss me. I love your hair.
What makes it special? Everything. Absolutely everything.
stuck at work in cubicles all day long, or in other jobs never normally have an opportunity to release their aggression. It's an amazing cathartic release to get that opportunity to do that stuff.
The art you see here, you're never going to see anything like this anywhere else. I mean, I drove down the street and the guy wrote something on a cardboard sign, made me rethink part of my life. And I just lost my dad this year. So going out to the temple, of course, I'm, tears running down my eyes.
You cannot possibly put it into words, and you cannot possibly remember it as it is, so you have to keep coming back to refresh your memory. It's all different every year. If you find something you really love, you come back, it won't be here because it's gone. And in about an hour or two, the temple is going to be gone, which is sort of illustrative of the whole process.
Wow. I saw that previewing this before we presented it, but now that everyone's crying, I'm crying too. That film was made by a person named Anders Christian Rasmussen. It was filmed in 2012, so exactly about 10 years ago. He was only on the playa once that one year, and when I emailed him to ask for permission to share this, he said, "Wow, you found this?" And I only made that video as soon as I got back and haven't been back. So anyway, thank you, Anders. The first video you saw earlier was by a filmmaker named Ari Farroy. I saw that someone requested the links to these, so we'll share those out to you so you can cry and watch and cry on your own and with others in your own time. All right, yeah, and I want to share these videos to get us a little bit, of a sense of like getting back out there and what we're really striving for. So I hope you're feeling all of that. And what we're also striving for is some big art. And so next up is Peter Platzgummer, who is part of our art department, and he's here to share some previews about art that will be on the playa this year to whet your appetite. So Peter, hello.
Good morning, and fellow campmates, and thanks for that. I wasn't expecting to have the big emotional load right in front of me, so. My name's Peter. I'm from the art department. I'm the complex art project manager, which means I manage the large and most complex art pieces on playa. And I am here to give you a little preview of what's happening. I made this awesome presentation I'm going to share with you right now, if I can. And I found the perfect name for my presentation. There's certainly 274, but probably many more art installations in Black Rock City in 2022. Certainly 274 because that's the number as of this morning of registered art pieces. Probably many more because registration is still open until June 1st, so more than a month. And we expect at least another 100 art pieces to come. So we'll probably end up with somewhere in the range of 350 to 450 art pieces, which is slightly more than we usually have. not too much more, but slightly more. When I talk about art pieces, I talk about art pieces that are on playa and not in theme camps, because I do know that all of you are bringing art too, and that is a super important part of Burning Man, and one that I appreciate a lot. 300 art pieces, or roughly 300 art pieces right now, are a bit of a problem because it leaves me with 2 seconds per art piece for this 10-minute presentation. So bear with me when we're going through all of them. No, I just wanted to look at Level's face. We're not going to do that. That's way too much. I just want to talk about a few things. Some that we already posted in a journal article not too long ago about the right now 88 honoraria pieces that we had. The really big things, the things that all of us in the art department are really proud about this year is, or proud of this year, is that we put a lot of effort into pushing our own organizational goals. We pushed RIDE a lot, we pushed sustainability a lot, and we are really trying, or let me say it differently, while we are not trying to specifically curate art in the way that we're not picking the nicest pieces or the most beautiful pieces that we see, we're trying to bring something for everyone out there. We did this year focus quite a lot on increasing the visibility of artists of colors. These are all art pieces of lead artists of color. Right now, we have roughly 20%, which is a big increase to the years before. And we also increased the number of art pieces that have a lead artist that is female or non-binary. We're at more than a third of the pieces. Bear in mind that we are excluding all the pieces that are done by teams. So we're pretty much half-half. We can still be better, obviously, but we made a big jump this year and a big effort into increasing these numbers. Sustainability is also a big topic, and what you will see this year out on Playa is that we have a lot of pieces that are trying to work with alternative energy forms, very, very often with the help of their theme camps. We're also working a lot with recycled materials. And while we are still burning art, and we think it's important to burn art, we're making sure that art that is burnt is art where burning is an integral part of the philosophy of the piece. So we're not just burning because it's easier to carry home a bucket of ash instead of your art piece. We are burning because it should be part of the art piece. That being said, it's a bit too hard to do a big tour, so I thought we're doing a small tour. And as we're trying to give you an idea how it's going to be on Playa, I thought what we could do is we do an art tour all together. So imagine it is August 29th. You are done building your camp. The porta potty is empty, your water tank's full, and you and your 2 friends here, Sparkle Rainbow and Chocolate Banana, decide to go out on an art tour. You heard about Catharsis, the new piece of Arthur Maumani, who did the temple in 2018. And you know it's somewhere in the Playa, but you haven't seen it because you worked so much on your art camp or on your own camp that you haven't had a chance to go to the Playa. So you decide to go out and find this piece. Best way of doing this is going to the artery at 6:30 in Esplanade, because that's where the big map is, where you can see all the art pieces. And in case you didn't know that, we also have a printout map there for self-guided art tours, which is totally worth getting, because that's the map we are taking, and we are going on our tour with your friends. So you're starting to drive, you talk to one of the 250 Arterian volunteers that we have, who told you exactly where Catharsis is, and you're out on your way into the Playa. And it's a nice day, it's windy, but you are getting there pretty quickly until one of your friends looks at you and says, I need to go to the porta potty. And you're having the usual art tour discussion. Like, didn't we say we do this beforehand? Like, are you for real? You only have an hour. Okay, let's go there. While you do this, we are checking out the art piece that's right next door, to a few hundred feet away, which is called Colors of Nostalgia by Elena Starostina and Alyssa Van Sant. They're both from the Bay Area. Elena is originally from the Ukraine, And it's not their first piece. Elena brought 2 other pieces to the playa. Last one was Zirconium Clock in 2019. And because you actually have time to not just drive by, but kind of look at it a bit more closely, you realize that it's actually a pretty cool photo booth with 4 different doors, and each door shows you a different time period. It's the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's videos in it, there's pictures in it, there's a lot of little tools and stuff in it to give you a chance to make Burning Man photos from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And you would not have had a chance if your friend didn't have a need for a break. So you check it out and then you decide you go on. Your friend's back. You're back on your way out to the deep playa when you hear some really interesting sounds and you think, let's check that out too. And you're stopping at this piece, people-powered music, aka the Tinkle Drum by Bibi Blikendal. This is Bibi's first piece out on at Burning Man. Bibi's from the Netherlands, and this piece has kind of a funny story behind how it started. She was missing the guy that was usually sitting in the park next to her house playing the hurdy-gurdy. She decided she's making an own hurdy-gurdy that people can just use in the park while he's not here. And that thing became bigger and bigger while she was designing it until it's what it is now, namely a human hamster wheel that plays music when you and your friends are inside and walking with it. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this one. But you're still on your way to Catharsis, so let's go on. You can almost see it. It's coming closer, closer. And I know this is a temple, not Catharsis, but it's a geometric form. You go closer and not Catharsis is actually a different geometric form, namely a clothes peg. This is the resurrection of the clothes peg by Usha Zejarim, which is the only African honoraria piece that we have this year. This is also the very first time Usha is at Black Rock City. So she's not just bringing one of the biggest pieces with 42 feet or 13 meters, but also her very first piece out there. But she's usually working with clothes pegs, so that's not the first part. You can climb on these tubes, you can sit on parts of it, and the upper part is actually a wind music instrument where the wind hopefully goes through in the right direction and makes some sounds. For her, this is to signify the female, and it's singular and it's collective. It's an ordinary domestic object, rudimentary in nature. In its amplified form, it speaks of the pedestrian functions of our lives, and in particular, the lives of women. That, by the way, is what you would read in the self-guided art tour. Like, that's the description that you read in there. Was a nice piece. You were able to climb up, see some of Black Rock City and some of the playa, but at the same time, you're realizing it's starting to get too late because you have a workshop in camp and you need to go back. So I guess you're gonna look at Catharsis next time and not this time. Yeah, because that's how art tours work at Burning Man. You try to go somewhere and you end up somewhere completely else. And it's not always the big art pieces, but sometimes it's just the small ones that are actually really cool. And in this case, all art pieces that are by female artists and art pieces from international artists or artists of color. And that's about it for this tour. For the next one, or if you want to see some more previews, what I would suggest is check out the Desert Arts preview on June 12th. Around noon, it's going to be a digital version, so you can join it on Zoom. You can also check out what we just published, namely the art installations. We have a picture and a description of every art piece that's going out on the internet, and I hope someone is putting this in the chat. And well, I thought you should still see what Arthur is actually making. This is Catharsis. It's going to be 140 feet and is essentially serving as a gallery for artists of color that are going to be inside and present, I think, up to 20 different art pieces. That's it from me. Back to level. And before I do that, one big thank you to all of you. Artists have roughly, or I need to restart that sentence, about 50% of our artists have art support camps. The other 50% are with theme camps. All of them on making community art. Community art means there's a whole community behind it that builds it. And while you are doing a theme camp, a lot of you are also involved and highly involved in these art pieces. And thanks a lot for doing this. This is how this works. And when you are all on the Burning Man art installation webpage, click on the links for the artists. They have some really cool pieces there and can give you some more descriptions. You might also want to check out their fundraisers because art is expensive and it's really hard to finance it, especially this year. Feel free to donate as much as you want to as many of these artists as you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Let's give snaps to Peter, snaps to all the art and the artists who are making it, which include many of you. We're gonna keep the show rolling, and I'm gonna keep my transition short so that we can just get everyone in that we have planned. So I saw in the chat earlier, when Trixie was presenting about data, people were like, wait, isn't coffee still sold at Black Rock City? In 2022, we have decided that coffee will no longer be sold at Center Camp. But we're having new visions for it. So I'm going to bring up Laura Day, the Associate Director of Event Operations for Black Rock City, who can tell you a little bit more about how we're thinking about it and how you can participate.
Thanks, Level. Yeah, Laura Day here, Associate Director of Operations. And like you, Level, my first burn was also in 2009. Anyway, I'm really excited to be here with all of you. I'm going to do the screen share thing for you, and we'll talk a little bit more about Center Camp. So you may have heard that we're trying out a year without selling coffee, and you can hold your rotten tomatoes for the end, please. The best part is we get to reimagine the space together. So in the last few years, we've been thinking a lot about what the community wants the future of Black Rock City to be. And also we've been thinking about how we show up as global citizens and what's truly important in the world and how we can show up bigger and better on Playa in these ways. The cafe has very complex operations and significant environmental impacts. And so I'm really excited that we get to share a blank canvas and get to paint this landscape together. So this year we're focused on 3 themes for the space. Many of us had transformative experiences at the Renegade Burn or Free Burn, whatever you call it, the last year on Playa. And to me, that was very much Burning Man in its raw and beautiful essence. And we heard loud and clear that less is more. And we couldn't agree more. So we're opening the space up to the community to curate and choose the direction of the space. As Larry said, we build the hive, they bring the honey. Another of the main goals is to foster immediacy and participation through interactivity. So how can we create new opportunities for connection and engagement? What does a symbiotic and supportive integration between Burning Man Project and the community look like? Center Camp was always intended to be a touch point for creating community. And that's the case now more than ever. The world has evolved so much since coffee shops were the headquarters of counterculture, and Black Rock City has evolved so much from when there was a desperate need for a decent cup of coffee on Playa. These days, coffee is gifted by many camps on Playa. In fact, most of us brew our own for ourselves and our campmates. And within the work laid out in cultural direction setting, we've been looking to reinforce these principles wherever possible. I think that we can all acknowledge that there are some obvious rubs against the principles of decommodification and radical self-reliance, and selling coffee has been controversial for a very long time. So as we look towards a more decentralized approach to how we build Black Rock City together, this feels like a great experiment to demonstrate our commitment to our culture and prioritize the environment. So what's going to stay the same? You will have the same beautiful structure, over half an acre or 2/3 of a football field worth of shade during the day and a lovely refuge at night. You can still look to the crown flags as your North Star when you're lost at sea. The same 2 stages will be there, as will the wooden floor where the cafe once sat. And this is space that we get to curate together. The lounge areas will remain for now, and we'll continue to respond to how the community, how you all want to see the space evolve. What will change this year? Besides no coffee shop, you'll be able to enter the space from every direction. There will be way more space for art, maybe some live painting over the course of the week. There's lots of open space available to support your pop-ups, activities, and you can bring your camp's particular brand of weird from the neighborhoods to center camp, highlighting the special magic that happens in the nooks and crannies of the city that sometimes gets overlooked. We will also serve as a space, this will also serve as a space to share conversations and be able to teach each other all of our unique and brilliant ways. And don't worry, placement is going to make sure coffee is available in the neighborhood with more interactivity than ever. So please consider this your invitation to co-create this new canvas and participate. We want this to be open source. We want it to be collaborative and something that becomes far more amazing than what we could ever imagine on our own. This space is for you. It's your space. And how will you contribute? Now is a really great time to go back to your campmates and begin brainstorming with how you are going to leave your stamp on center camp. So you can reach out with questions or ideas, what you think the new landscape should look like, how you want to participate. You can email centercamp@burningman.org. And yes, there's a form for that. I will pop that into the chat here in just a moment. And with that, this is Laura Day signing off, and it's back to you, Level.
Thank you, Laura. Snaps to that. Change is happening. Change is happening. If you filled out your placement questionnaire, there was a checkbox in the zillion questions that you could answer that said, I'm interested in hosting a workshop or a performance in center camp. If you check that box, we are actually going to follow up with you to say, hey, here is an opportunity for you to tell us more about what you'd like to do. So stay tuned for that. We're going to move the show right along to our next presenter, Madam President Shay Hardy, who is head of outside services. And you may have heard that we have decided this year to no longer allow delivered housing. That's like delivered RVs and trailers, largely in part because we're trying to do our best to curb concerns around plug and plays and turnkey camps and make sure that we really stamp that out. So this is one of our best strategies to do that. We know that it's impacted people in different ways and hopefully help people become more radically self-reliant. President, take it away. You got more to say than I do.
Great. Hi, I'm President. As you said, I'm going to dive right in since you gave me such a great intro. I always like to start with the mission statement of OSS because over the years that I've been running the program, I think there's been, people don't always know what it is. So a mission statement is always the best place to start. So the OSS program supports the communal effort, culture, and long-term sustainability of Black Rock City. And we do that by regulating access to the event for qualifying service providers. And it's supporting all of you from team camps, artists, participants. And why is regulating access important for this program? You know, we have a decommodified space. So it's this kind of exists in this interesting realm, but all of the service providers in the program have been vetted very carefully by us. We make sure they have cultural integrity, they have respect for commercial and environmental compliance regulations, and they have to be minimally impactive to our infrastructure. They also need to follow all the laws. They also need to be certified in what type of service or equipment they're bringing in. They need to have insurance because we're looking out for you, and we want to make sure that there's all the regulatory stuff in place for you to get the things that you need. So on to the exciting stuff. As Level said, changes for 2022. Delivered housing is no longer allowed. And I don't need to go into big detail that now, I will a little bit later. And the other thing that's so exciting is that we implemented a new transparent and clear framework for how we evaluate what comes into the OSS program. And we love acronyms here at Burning Man. So it's called ACEs, and it's allowable categories of equipment and services. So it's much easier to just say ACEs, and I like saying ACEs. So I'm a visual thinker, so the best way to kind of explain it to everyone is with a Venn diagram. And we looked at what are the big three key things we need to see when it comes to letting something come in through OSS: health and safety, sustainability, and communal effort. In that where do they overlap, those equipment are allowed. However, right in that sweet spot, that's where we have things that are encouraged, because we've got our sustainability goals, and where all of those overlap is actually places where the outside services program can really help us. So like, how did we come up with it? We've had 2 years off. We've got all these questions that were swirling through our minds that we never really had time for. So we had 2 years to kind of do some deep thinking, and how can we use it as a reset? So why did we ban delivered housing? Well, we measured it against that new ACES criteria, and it didn't actually hit any of the overlapping areas. But also, we had significant increases in that particular category every year, and that also, like, so much so we had to cap it in 2018. And with that, there was also some more environmental compliance issues. Then at the same time, we had our cultural direction setting program survey, and the results, there was a lot of negativity and about delivered housing. It was called out as a problem from our community. At the same time, though, we saw that respondents also loved the outside services program for all the other things that it does help you bring these awesome gifts to the city. So kind of bringing it back into the whole compliance elements of things, OSS wears 2 hats. One is, of course, the one we love, the Larry hat, cultural stewardship, and that's where we can talk about the principles all day long. But the other one is very black and white. It's commercial compliance, regulatory requirements. So I'm briefly going to go through some of those here. I probably sound like a beaten record. I know some of you heard me say this before, but all commercial activity on playa needs a special recreation permit. Another acronym, SRP. So anyone who's doing business needs one. And when you don't have one and you get found out, you risk eviction. The important part here, though, for you guys is that anyone who is an OSS provider needs to apply for the SRP 180 days prior to the event. This year it was February 23rd. So in the future, if there is a business or that you are considering using, you're just going to have to get on the ball sooner every year. So I just want to call that out, because later on you'll see why. And a reminder from 2020, it's been a long time, but there's no more one-time refundable delivery tickets at the gate. And some of you going, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing, but it was, but we canceled it. And that was in 2020, we announced it, but it's been 2 years. So we really wanted to give you a reminder that deliveries to Black Rock City, there's really only 2 options. The first one is deliver everything yourself. And absolutely, that's a spirit of radical self-reliance. Pat yourself on the back for that. The only other option really is the OSS program. And we say there's authorized providers. And when we say there's authorized providers, part of it is we have an application process. There's the SRP process, and then we also contract them. So then we publish a list, and it's live now on our website, so that you can see who the authorized providers are for 2020. So you can stay informed and know who is in the program. So some quick compliance tips. I say TCOs, but I realize it's for not just theme camps, this is for any type of camp. So just make sure you do your due diligence. Check that website. If you're still in doubt, you can email OSS, or even if you don't want to email OSS directly, you can talk to the camp support team. They're a great resource. Also, remember that transactional arrangements aren't okay. Gifting is what to go for. And if you need any help with that, you can go to our website on a page called Participation and Paying People. It's a great, make sure you read it. And then once you get to BRC, plan to stay there. Please limit your ins and outs. Be proactive in your planning. So, be mindful of the added impact on gate operations and our sustainability goals by having to go in and out of the event. The key takeaways. We took a big step forward with banning housing because it's definitely correcting how OSS program kind of becomes the backbone of production for many convenience camps. We're making an effort to really communicate better about OSS, and including why we made these changes. And we are still going to be accepting new providers that align with this ACES strategy. So there's just some examples there. So looking towards a more sustainable future, we're actually encouraging businesses that exist in that sweet spot. There's all sorts of different ones. We want to encourage innovation, all of that stuff. So how can we shape the OSS program to help us reach our sustainability goals and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels? So for further information, there's, I know it's kind of awkward with the website there, but it's very easy to find. You can always email us at that email, and there's a breakout later today at 1:15 p.m. We're going to talk logistics, transportation, and have a Q&A. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to seeing you all in the dust.
All right, thank you, President. More changes, more snaps. Yeah, we know that, it's a big lift to just get back out to Black Rock City. And we actually know that most of you do it on your own. And so, this messaging, we're also trying to target not only for you all in a general fashion, but also our highest users of outside services to say, hey, there's a different way to do this. Most of us are bringing our own stuff in. And so thank you, President, for helping guide that shift to our cultural and commercial compliance. All right, next I'm gonna pull up Hotspot, who is our superintendent of
utilities.
Utilities. I was like, superintendent of DPW.
I ran fuel for 4 years on Playa, and now I'm handling utilities. And so I still oversee the fuel program. Let me share my screen. All right, so the petrol department runs the Black Rock City Fuel Program, and this program handles the safety, education, and distribution of fuel within the event. The aim of this program when it was created in 2016 was to get large fuel storage out of camps so as not to have a massive fire in the city and to reduce the likelihood of fuel spills within camps. So amazingly, improper fuel storage makes up about 70% of the LNT issues we come across. And did you know that you can be issued a citation by the Bureau of Land Management if your fuel is stored directly on the playa or too close to your trailer? So it's at the BLM's discretion to cite you for any of these fuel storage issues. And we would like, and it can bring law enforcement into your camp and lead to unwelcome searches. So help us help you in preventing these avoidable interactions. So we have 5 tips for doing fuel storage right.
Hey, we can see your notes, so if you could just hide those notes or put it in a different sphere, different part of the screen.
Okay, that's good to know. Got it. Thanks.
Perfect.
Preach. Appreciate it. So 5 tips for doing fuel storage right. 1, contain your fuel. 2, don't store fuel next to a heat source. Keep your fuel away from RV trailers and non-fuel items. 4, limit fuel stored in camps. And 5, avoid fuel vehicle collisions. So regardless of the size or type of fuel, all secondary containment must be 110% of the largest container that is stored on top of it. So here you will see, let me get rid of this. So the photos shown here were taken over the past few years by our LNT outreach teams comprised of Earth Guardians and Black Rock Ranger volunteers. And these teams cruise around the city looking for LNT issues and can help you fix them. So secondary containment is simple. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see an industry standard for fuel secondary containment. The only thing we'd fix here is that we'd move the cans towards the center of the containment and move it 10 feet away from a non-fuel item. So here are some photos of what not to do. Do not store fuel containers in the bed of a truck. Even though the fuel is off the ground, the chances that the truck bed is not completely sealed is pretty likely. And if there is secondary containment within the bed of your truck, you could have the fuel storage in there. Here, the fuel is off the ground, but it is on a mesh gate and it's next to an RV and there's no secondary containment. Here, even if the plastic bag was around the fuel container, it's still not proper containment and you can get static from the plastic bag, which can cause a spark and can ignite the fuel. So here, so number 2, do not store fuel next to a heat source. Right here, you can see that the fuel is right next to a generator. It is under the living space of the trailer above. And it's over top of the fuel tank of the truck, and it doesn't have any secondary containment. So it's all sorts of wrong. Number 3, do not store fuel under or next to a trailer, RV, tent, and keep 10 feet away from anything else. 4, do not have more than 110 gallons of fuel stored within your camp. So here you will see that there are 220 gallons of fuel shown, or 4 55-gallon drums. Now you might say that they're not full, but it doesn't matter how much fuel you have in the drums. It just matters what the maximum capacity of those containers is. And here we have the same problem, so you might say the fuel is shaded, but there's no secondary containment, and there's also roughly 200 gallons of fuel here in little 5-gallon containers. Number 5, protect your stored fuel from vehicle collision. And need we say more? Don't store your fuel next to the road. On our hazmat page, we have this diagram that we worked up that makes it a lot easier to understand, you know, the safe distances for storing things near your fuel. And those will be popped into the chat at some point. So here are some pictures of proper fuel storage. The drum here has secondary containment that is 110% of the max container size within it. And with an additional bonus, there is a fence around this fuel storage, which keeps any non-fuel items 10 feet away from the fuel storage area and reduces the chance of vehicle collision. Here you'll see an industry standard fuel containment pad. And we would just suggest centering the barrel on this pad and making sure that it is 10 feet away from the trailer that's right there in the picture. And last but not least, so all participants using combustible fuels in their camps at an art installation, in a mutant vehicle, or for other purposes at Burning Man must educate themselves and comply with appropriate practices for storing and handling these materials. Not only is it essential for the safety of our community, but it's also required as part of our event permit stipulations with the Bureau of Land Management. There's a great article that was written by Skirpus that is up on the Burning Man Journal, and that will be dropped into the chat if you'd like to read further. Thank you.
Thank you, Hotspot. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about what exactly, what's the right amount of space, how to do that all. So hopefully that helps clarify. The website has a lot of great information too. And I'll also say that there are people who are like, well, I've always done it this way, it's fine. It's actually not fine. So I hope people can take all that advice and figure out how to lay out your camp plans better this year. All right, we're gonna move on to talk about emissions. We've been talking a lot about sustainability and how can we make Black Rock City more carbon neutral. And we have two great presenters today to tell you a little bit more because they've actually crunched more data to try to understand what we're actually working with. So I'll hand it over to Marnie and Papercut.
Thanks, Lovell. Hey, everyone from Washington, D.C. In 2020, Burning Man Project undertook an emissions inventory of Black Rock City with a core team that included me and Jesse Gibson here, Ryan Wartina, and David Shearer. Today, Jesse and I bring you details about our methodology and results and some thoughts about where we're headed. Here's the big headline. The estimated carbon dioxide emissions from the 2019 event, including on-site emissions and travel to and from the event, is just over 54,000 metric tons. That's equivalent to a whopping 11,800 passenger vehicles being driven for a year, or burning 60 million pounds of coal. What if you were to guess what portion of emissions are from travel and transportation versus operations and living on site? Travel and transportation, including participants, staff, service providers, delivery, and servicing, we found that 91% of emissions came from air and ground travel, and 9% of emissions resulted from on-site activities. Burners come from all over the world, so we knew we'd be looking at some significant numbers. What we didn't know until we did this tally was that burners come from 5,562 different cities. This says a lot about our cultural impact and a lot about our environmental impact too. Let's start with air travel. Nearly 24,000 people flew on some portion of their journey to Black Rock City and back again to their home in 2019. We included air travel emissions from everyone flying at any point of their journey, including flights from overseas, domestic flights, Burner Express Air, and even scenic flights over Black Rock City. Our estimate is 130.5 million miles and 22,300 metric tons of CO2. These air miles traveled are what part of what contributes to our rich cultural fabric, but also a major way we contribute to climate change. Let's switch gears to ground travel. We estimated burner miles traveled and the types of vehicles and loads coming into BRC, including our service providers such as toilets and heavy equipment and water trucks and waste hauling, our ice vendor, and our infrastructure like our 9-mile perimeter fence and gate road materials and center camp, and our fleet vehicles and our communications equipment, and of course the magic of BRC, which is art projects, theme camps, and mutant vehicles. Everything needs to be transported to the site, which is very remote, as you know, and back again. We found that burners traveled approximately 49 million miles by land. But that's gross miles traveled, as if each person traveled alone, which we know isn't the case. And so adjusting for carpooling and Burner Express bus, we tallied a total of 23 million vehicle miles, which contributes about 26,600 metric tons of CO2 to this inventory. Take a note that far fewer people flew than drove, but the air emissions are quite close to land. We're going to show an aerial photo from Maxar Technologies of cars waiting on Gate Road to enter the event, just to say that there's upwards of 30,000 vehicle trips into Black Rock City, and also to admire the work of our gate crew. Next, we're going to look at a summary of emissions by mode of travel to Black Rock City, showing metric tons of carbon emissions per sector and the percentage of each towards the whole. Remember that air travelers also travel by land on their way to the airport or from the airport. And the takeaway here, again, is that emissions from air travel and land travel are fairly equivalent overall. Next, we're going to look at a slide that shows the average metric tons of CO2 per person from a solo traveler in a car to a shared Burner Express air flight. You can see the people who journey to Black Rock City only by land and who ride share have the lowest emissions per person. Some of our plans for a more sustainable future include closer storage options and work capabilities for mutant vehicles, art projects, and theme camps on property near Gerlach. And we also implemented Burner Express bus and air years ago to reduce vehicle trips, and those programs have been successful. But key questions for us all to answer, everyone here today, is how do we reduce what we take, what's achievable, given our needs for health and safety and our desires for creativity. All right, we're ready to talk about on-playa emissions. Carbon emissions on site, of course, come from many sources: driving and idling of vehicles, including staff vehicles, service providers, and government officials. There's generators, flame effects, campfires, and art burns. We will dive into some of the particulars now, and we'll start with mutant vehicles. 21,000 gallons of fuel burned for driving on site, we estimate emitting about 182 metric tons of CO2. About 8,400 gallons of propane gives us about 48 metric tons of CO2. Total, that's about 0.4% of the total emissions inventory, and about 5.6 on-site emissions. I hope you're wondering about Burning Man's own production infrastructure. We took a look at that. This is our service and equipment providers, staff, generators and vehicles, emergency services, government agencies, center camp, and other community spaces. You can see that our impact as an organization with the services and infrastructure we provide towards community services and public health and safety are about 2.8% of our total inventory. We do want to talk a bit about art burns. The main event in Black Rock City is the Man Burn. It's the central spectacle where we gather and celebrate. There are fireworks and flames, and the emissions are obvious, but it's also a tiny fraction of the inventory. The Man is only 0.1% of the total inventory and 1.4% on site. All in all, art projects that are burned account for about 302 metric tons of CO2. As Peter said earlier, we're looking at art burns right now and asking some important questions. Jesse, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Amazing. Sorry, and you'll have to pardon me for any noise right now. My neighbor is literally installing a washer dryer right now. So bad timing, didn't know that that was going to be the case. But as you can see with on-site emissions, we're moving past a lot of this. Or going back a couple slides, actually. Let's see. Where do we have that? Well, on-site emissions, right? Most of it is actually theme camps. I don't know where that slide is right now, but a little over half of the emissions we suspect on Playa is due to theme camps. And of that, we have quite a bit coming from RVs and generators, about 55% in total of the on-site emissions. And how did we calculate this? Well, we decided to really drill into kind of the methodology for how we did theme camps, because since it's such a big part of our on Playa profile, it really made up a big amount of the emissions, and we kind of just wanted to, and there's some assumptions that we had to make there in order to get these calculations. And we used primarily in calculating this, the petrol data in order to kind of determine what the actual consumption by camp size was, and Level, our placement manager, designated the sizes for these camps. And we looked at the data that we had from petrol, the DPW fuel program, to kind of make an average of what consumption looks like at each different size, and then extrapolated that to the camps that did not get fuel from petrol. And as you can see with one of our assumptions here at the top, we assumed that camps that brought their own fuel, which we refer to as BYO fuel, consumed half as much as camps that are fueled by petrol. And that's, largely that assumption was due to the fact that maybe these camps have more interactivity, maybe have a bigger impact, and also aren't encumbered by the logistics of having to transport fuel. So that's why we made that assumption. So that's a big one, right? And we're hoping maybe as we're presenting this, you're thinking to yourself how you and your camp maybe fit into this. We also made an assumption that half of the theme camp RVs were powered by camp generators, as in one centralized unit, which if they are being fueled by petrol, that means that number is already accounted for, versus half of the theme camp RVs were powered by internal generators. And again, this was an assumption that we made. We don't have data on this. So this is something that hopefully we can get better data on from the census and from placement in the future. But yeah, that was a big assumption, and that's kind of part of how we calculated the theme camp numbers. We also had to make assumptions about how much of fuel those RVs, since they were about half of them were powered by their own internal generators, like how much that was, and that obviously ranges quite a bit depending on the RV and the size of it. But we just made an assumption that on average about 25 gallons were in the tank when people pulled up on Playa, and they burned the entire tank, and obviously with enough to get back to Gerlach or Reno or Sparks or wherever they're getting their next fuel up, but assuming that they were going to use all the fuel that they brought with them. And they were also we had to make some assumptions about unplaced camps and their size, since we don't have the data that placement has such good numbers on, and so those percentages are shown down here at the bottom, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those size distinctions mean on the next slide. So here we go. So as you can see here over on the right hand side, we have the size designations that Level came up with. So a tiny camp would be anyone less than 18, and you can see all those other numbers there. We also have oh my God, I am so sorry. The number of camps there are on the right hand side as well, and you can see how many camps have no generators whatsoever, and so that is quite a few. And obviously we saw in the earlier slides about the, oh my God, I am so sorry, y'all. I'm gonna try and step somewhere else.
I can take this, Jesse, if you want to.
All right, I'm hopefully in a place with a little bit less noise now. All right. So as you can see, a lot of these camps here, we have the petrol camps are consuming about twice as much. And we see the breakdown between fuels from RVs versus fuels from camp generators. And we can see that there's like a trend obviously moving downwards. And yeah, that's about how much fuel we see being consumed. Obviously, the biggest camps have the biggest consumption, and RVs make up a big portion of this. And that gets diminished as we get a little bit bigger. Let's see. One other thing that we have here, emissions and fuel consumption by camp size. So this one is just actually taking the number of camps that were present in placement and multiplying the average amount of consumption by the number that we're seeing. So even though extra large camps like the big camps on Esplanade, let's say, even though they may have a larger amount of fuel consumption, there are just fewer of them. So we're actually seeing the biggest area for where we can kind of make an impact would be on the large camps. So the ones that are 51 to 125 people, which is interesting to see. I just thought that this was an interesting graph to include in terms of showing the actual emissions profile. And let's see. I'm going to hand it back over to Marnie.
Thanks, Jesse. Way to power through all the different distractions. That was fantastic. And you have done so much work in this emissions inventory, and just can't appreciate you enough and the expertise that you brought to this long process. I'm going to close it out just by saying that carbon reduction will continue to play a really important role towards our environmental sustainability goals. How do we use less fuel? How do we use no fuel? Where can we scale back? One of the things that we're looking at is what Laura referenced earlier. Many of us felt at the Plan B Renegade event last summer that less is more, less can be great, simple can be liberating. And we're looking at replacement of existing systems with new ones. How can we incorporate and incentivize more electric vehicles? We have to consider the source of electricity too. Burning fuel to run an EV isn't sustainable. How do we power Black Rock City with renewable clean energy? And finally, removal. For more on this topic, I hope you'll take a look at our carbon removal call last December. So I think, Jesse, you can take the presentation off of the share, and just a huge shout out to you, Jesse, and our team who put this together, and also thanking the theme camp community for doing such incredible work.
Thank you, Marnie. Thank you, Jesse. Lots of snaps. We're going to keep the show rolling. I do want to acknowledge that it is 11:56, and many of our presenters have gone a little bit more than the time we allotted them. So if y'all can hang out, we were planning to wrap things up around 12 o'clock Pacific time, but I think if we might roll in another 15 minutes into that. So if you need to hop off, please do know that there are breakouts this afternoon. All those individual links to separate Zoom rooms are available on Kindling, and they should have been in an email that you received. So just know that, but I hope you can stick around through 12:15, and the breakouts won't start again until 1:15. So we're gonna move right along. Our next presentation is another wonderful aspect of Black Rock City, which is how we store things. So we know that many people have waited on a long wait list to get to have a container in the BRC Storage Program run by Burning Man. And we have Muddy Puppy here today to tell you more about how we're planning to expand. So Muddy Puppy, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Level. All right. So I'm just going to share this real quick with you guys. All right. Welcome to the BRC Storage Program. We are a department that provides container storage for BRC camps, which we store off-site during the rest of the year. Chef is our Senior Director of Real Estate. Mobo is our General Manager of Gerlach Real Estate. And I am Muddy Puppy. I am the Black Rock Station Associate, where containers have historically been stored. And I'm helping in the transition while it moves. From Black Rock Station to the 360. This is the new property for Burning Man. And here you'll see there's a map of our new storage location. It shows Coyote Circle, where we will have a lot of interaction, events, things like that, as well as the large square down at the bottom. That is where it will host actual containers for the program. A big motivator for us is to support our sustainability goals, specifically, like Marnie mentioned, reducing our emissions. Early in 22, we sent out a survey that received 560 responses, only 8% of which respondents stated that they were not interested in joining the program. Of those that were already in the program, only 16% stated that they don't require year-round access. So we're hoping to provide that. Our timeline for developing interaction at the 360, we've already started with some events like Trailblaze last summer and fall. We are currently making announcements in multiple ways. An email went out for container owners, theme camps, mutant vehicle owners, and then of course you guys here today. Pardon. If you look on storage.burningman.org, it also contains the FAQ, our operating schedule, and the fees breakdown. So currently, we're only scheduling overnights for participants that are coming to some of our special events, but that will be opening up for the rest of the year and moving forward. Right now, we do provide transportation of the PCs, which are participant containers, but currently we intend on other storage that we are going to be offering now to be picked up and transported by the owners themselves. So things like the mutant vehicles or like a cargo trailer would be towed by the owner directly. And to keep it short and sweet, if you've got more questions, let us know, check out the site, or you can always email us, brcstorage@burningman.org. All right, thanks so much for your time, you guys.
Thank you, Muddy Puppy. It's listed in chat, but there is a breakout specifically about transportation, storage, OSS, and logistics. So please join that if you want to learn more and ask questions. Moving right along, we also wanted to share over the pandemic period, we have tried to think about how do we keep people engaged in the Burning Man community? How do we get theme camp organizers to talk to each other? And what we've created is a platform called Burning Man Hive. You probably have heard of it. Actually, let's do a raise of hands. How many people have like gone in? It's hive.burningman.org. Okay, I see a good number of people. We have the lovely power people behind it to tell you a little bit more about it today. KJ and Siobhan, who are on our education team, take it away.
Hey, thanks so much, Level. And thank you, Camp Symposium. We're going to keep this short and sweet. Again, we are KJ and Siobhan from Burning Man Project's education team, and we are just here to give you a taste of some of the sweet stuff you can find in Burning Man Hive.
All right, so to start, have you heard of Burning Man Hive? I know we just had a little poll, so it's great to see many of you have. It's the online learning and social platform of the Burning Man community, bringing us together to engage with one another, to learn from each other, and tap into the knowledge and skills of the global Burning Man network and beyond. So how can you join Hive? You can head over to hive.burningman.org. And if you've never logged in before, you'll use your burner profile to log in for the first time.
All right, so what is awaiting you in Hive? There are discussions, groups, events, learning opportunities that are available to all Hive members on a wide range of topics of interest, and we think to both burners and citizens of the world. We saw earlier in the plenary that several folks had raised their hand wondering about radical inclusion, diversity, and equity. How can we learn more? How can we level up our camp communities? And we just want to emphasize that we have a ton of amazing ride content in Hive, courses, a link to the ride stress test. Some of our courses include an introduction to anti-racism, a course that looks at representation and Burning Man, a course that looks at the concept of fragility through a burner lens. It's called Burner Fragility. These are courses produced by members of the community. And other great stuff too about getting back to Black Rock City, environmental sustainability, leadership skills, including conflict resolution. And we know that as we all are heading back to Black Rock City for the first time in 3 years, that we have this opportunity to connect our global community, to collaborate in ways that we previously did not have. And our team is just really excited to be one of the teams offering ways to do so.
So if you want to know more about Hive, join us this afternoon for our breakout session on What's Buzzing. We hope to see you there, and we'll hand it back to Lovell. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan and KJ. All right, we are nearing the end of our plenary session. And you can't leave anything without thinking about leaving no trace. So we have a video here prepared by our Profiles and Dusts documentation team, who are volunteer burners, who are also talented filmmakers. And in past camp symposiums, we've often featured DA, who is head of playa restoration. He can't be here today, but he's here in video. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask Devin to start the video. Get another taste of Burning
For
Man.
context, this is the man base. Like, we are right here, dead center. There's 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock's that way. And boom, just like that, 80,000 people just showed up and getting ready to build, burn, blow it up. We were just here 5 weeks ago looking at the open playa and the beauty, and we're getting ready to restore it to that beauty. So we're gonna build, burn, blow it up, and leave no trace.
Leave no trace, it's really fundamental to the placement process, and I think it is to every camp, or at least it should be. So from placement's end, we look at camps coming in and requesting placement, and one of our criteria for placement is leave no trace. We also look on the other end after the event at every placed camp, and we cross-reference that with the MOOP map, and we take a look and say, how did you do? You know, were you green, were you yellow, were you red? So the city grid is absolutely critical. It's where where all of us live, and where we can leave no trace, or we can leave things behind.
Basically, matter out of place MOOP is anything. It can be anything and everything that doesn't belong on this Black Rock desert, which is everything. It could be wood chips, it could be plastic debris, metal debris. These are all things that we build things out of. These are all things that don't belong in the playa, and we're doing our best to find everything. And again, the community does an amazing job. They probably pick up 99% of everything, which is visually 100%. So yeah, the move sweep doesn't happen until everybody's actually gone. The concept of the line sweep is to line up along the block and sweep from one side to the other with people picking up move. We cover 4 blocks at a time. You can see that people are moving quickly. Some people are moving slow. Some people are stopped. And so those areas where they're stopped because there's something there. And then my crew, highway cleanup, follows up. Traffic of Burning Man has moved on, and it is safe for us to be on the highways. We hit the highways and we pick up all the MOOP on both sides of the highway as fast as we can. We'll pick it up within 48 hours, you know, and actually road debris is actually a safety issue. These are things that are falling on the highways. And there's a national message out there about road debris. It says, secure your load like somebody you love is driving behind you, because they are. And that's especially true of Burning Man in Black Rock City. So when I published the MOOP map 2006, it got forwarded far and wide, and also the messaging behind it was like, hey, this is us tracking our effort, and we would like you to take this information seriously, but not take it personally. And that way we can all get better and keep building and burning and doing this again. And it kind of proved to me, it was like, oh, the community does care. They do care. And then every year it's gotten a little bit better and a little bit better. Also, as we've grown. And it also, it's an indicator. It's a confidence indicator as we head into the Bill M inspection. It's like we look at the map, it's colored out, We know where there were hot spots or where things were difficult, but now we're ready for the inspection.
So the Burning Man post-site inspection that the BLM has with Burning Man takes place around that first week of October. What is at stake for Burning Man is essentially a report card. It shows that all the work, all the team effort that the post-site inspection team has put into these last, 4 weeks ever since Labor Day, it's going to give them an A+. And I believe DAs told me like this is their Super Bowl. Like they are so ready to have an A+ on this report card.
The BLM will come out and they will they'll put a flag at the inspection point, and where the GPS said this coordinate. And then they will put a plastic bag and it'll have the coordinates on there. We'll go to each point and then we'll take out the flag and then we'll pull out a stake that is tied to a rope that is 37.7 feet. And then we'll walk that radius in a line sweep. We'll line sweep that radius and pick up everything that we find in that circle. And then everything we find goes into that bag. And basically, so if that MOOP is bigger than 3.7 inches, that's a fail. So it's an intense standard that the BLM puts on Burning Man. So the BLM inspection just happened, and we did 120 test points. We had about 100 people doing 80 to 100 people doing the inspection. And it looks like we did great. I'm in awe right now. The pressure was on. There were no obvious fails. It almost looks like a perfect score, and I'm afraid to even say that out loud because it's not official yet. But I'm really proud of my crew, and I'm proud of the 80,000 people of Black Rock City for their Leave No Trace effort. I'm continually just blown away, and I would really love for the community and the world to really understand our Leave No Trace effort and the success of it.
I just absolutely love that Leave No Trace is one of our core principles.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed that. 2019 was the greenest Black Rock City ever. Let's do that again. Let's make it even greener. There were still some little red and yellow spots in that map. All right, we're winding down this plenary. So I just wanted to part with a few words. One, just to recap, we talked about art, we talked about center camp, we talked about outside services, fuel, emissions, interactivity, storage, and a lot of big data energy. We laughed, I laughed, I cried, hopefully you did too. And we stretched. It's a huge production that we have to pull together to try to get information that feels timely and relevant. And as I said at the start, this is a unique year. We haven't been out there for over 2 years. It's going to be 3. And so, I hope that the rest of today is something that you can take with you, learn from, share information about. And there's a lot of email addresses and video links and things like that I know people are hoping for. So if you purchased a ticket, it was a free ticket, but if you signed up, we have your emails. We will send out all of that in a nice, happy package and bow so that you can look back on all this after this event. There are 2 breakout times. One starts at 1:15 and the other starts at 2:45. They are 75-minute sessions where you can talk to one another and learn a lot more. I do want to stress Hive is also a space to continue the conversation. It's great that you all spend part of your days and your weekends here, but it's also good to kind of continue the conversation in our digital world. I want to pull up a few people onto screen because this was not an easy effort by just me. I know people have been thanking me a lot, but thank you to everyone that's helped contribute. If you're a panelist in the afternoon, thank you for showing up for that. Can we pull up Papa Bear, Sander, Dilemma, PETA, Justin, Chris, Muppet, Devin. Devin's doing all this work back here. So these folks that are coming on screen right now are our fantastic behind the scenes team who have really helped with making today go successfully. So please give them lots of snaps for yourselves too. Great, there's dilemmas there. Looking for people. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for showing up again today. We do this every year, so do plan on coming back next year. It will likely be in March next year because April we know is a little late in the season. Yeah, I hope to see you in the breakouts. We'll be jumping around. We also have a feedback form to try to make this as best as we can. So if you can share your thoughts with us through the feedback form, we always read that through and make sure that we take all your feedback to make the following year even better.
The final thought, a big thank you to Level. Oh my God, we could not have done this. So amazing, amazing work.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, with that, I hope you all have some lovely lunches planned. We are gonna keep 5 breakout rooms open. Please navigate them on your own. You're not required to stay on camera. I know people need a break, but some people also might want some company and to chat with people in this room that we're in, this digital room that we're in. So there'll be 5 breakout rooms. Please check out the breakouts when they're open, and let's call it a wrap. Thank you very much. I will see you all in the breakouts.